All right, you are in Hell Week, and it's gonna last longer than a week. Yep, right now the human race is in a type of boot camp. Now, I remember when I went to boot camp to go into the Air National Guard. Well, I was in the Air National Guard. I had to go to boot camp, and that was on top of getting a GED and then doing the ASVAB and then finding a station which was near where I was living. And so I had to go to Lackland Air Force Base to go to boot camp. And I'll tell you, man, going to boot camp, you're a rainbow when you walk in because you're wearing your civilian clothes, and then they start breaking you down. They start yelling at you. And you're enduring so much verbal abuse without it really taking it to the next level, because you've seen stuff like in the movies. Like, oh, I don't know, the old Vietnam War movies. And yeah, I'm sure the Marine Corps, I'm sure even Special Ops, I'm sure, yeah, even the Army, Navy, they go through a lot more aggressive. But I was the Air Force. People call it the Chair Force. So it's pretty light relative to what the other branches experience. But relative to where I came from, boot camp was like, holy shit. I had Sergeant Oliveira yell at me all the time. I was the shortest person in the flight. And I was the guidon. What is the guidon? A person that carries the flag. When you carry the flag, you have your own set of marching steps, and you have to lead the flight straight, right, left. And I'm telling you, learning those steps, especially when I had learning disabilities way back then, was hell. And keeping my hair up because my hair was long. I didn't know how to French braid it. And keeping my hands cupped and to the side, or carrying the flag straight up and down versus having it tilt to the left or the right. Oh my God. It was like hell. And then you had to like wake up so early in the morning, like at 4 a.m. and you go to bed, and then you wake up right as soon as Revel, was it Revel? Yeah, when you do, that those little trumpet sounds, that's like through the loudspeaker. And then right then you had to go and get formation. And this is in Texas, and it's so fucking hot in Texas. And you see, and when you go to where the light is, and you see where the dark is, and they shine a light, you see all these cockroaches. This is an Air Force base. And then you have to go do calisthenics and run 1.5 miles right when you wake up. And so then I learned how to train my body to wake up before the trumpets go off, so I can go to the restroom and get my bed made. And so that way, then we did the calisthenics and to go running, and then come back, maybe take a shower for a minute, and then get into formation to get in line to go to chow, or the chow hall, and then walk in formation. And everything was just, it was hell. And then Hell Week. Hell Week was when they turned the AC off. You still had to drink 3 glasses of water every meal so that you didn't get dehydrated. And girls were crying all the time. I was crying a few times because I would get yelled at all the time. And Hell Week was when you had to wake up really early and go do all these chores. And it was just like, it was going through all of those exercises of the obstacle course, sharpshooting and running. And I had to run like better than everybody else because, I was so skinny too. They were also donating blood, and I couldn't because I was too skinny. And it was Hell Week. It was fucking Hell Week. And so it made me so aggressive. Like when I came back and went back to, my job during the week, and then I would go on the weekends because I was like a weekend warrior once a month. And I'd come back just acting like I'm going to kick everybody's ass. Like literally, I was acting like I can kick everybody's ass. That's what basic training does. It makes you want to kick everybody's ass because you went through hell. And most people didn't go through hell. And so, yeah, I came back a little aggressive, very aggressive. And so right now we're like in Hell Week. Only everyone gets to go through boot camp. And you're being broken down to be built back up. Some of you will not get up. And that's what this whole pain and suffering is it's conditioning people to be tougher. It's basically, you're in basic training. You're in the military right now. But see, when we had the Sundays off for religious stuff, I went to the Jewish Community Center, and well, everybody went to church or whatever they did, and I got to eat candy and make phone calls and all that. But right now, people are like resisting boot camp, right? They're taking their drugs, and so I mean, here in regular life, you can resist boot camp, or you can try to. But what's going to happen is when people resist pain and suffering, when they don't find ways to relax. Like my husband, he was off fishing yesterday, like all fucking day from 12 hours, and he ate nothing. He comes home and I'm exhausted because fuck, like I'm not built like him. I'm not built like my husband. Him and the guys he hangs out with, they're like freaking supermen. Here I am going like, oh my God, it's like fucking boot camp, and my arms are hurting, my pits are hurting, and everything else, and I have to lay down, and I have to, and I eat food, and I feel the heart palpitations and all that shit. And it's survivable. It's not a condition I'm gonna fucking try to treat or anything. But he was gone all day. He came home, and I fed him some spaghetti. I barely ate it because I'm just too tired to cook. But I cooked for him, and then he went to bed, and because he had to get up early this morning, and I went to bed, and I'll tell you, man, waking up exhausted, because it was exhausting. And then I'm thinking, like, with all this G5 shit, these northern lights are like basically boob jobs enhanced. And you don't even know. Here's the thing. Even though, yeah, we know, well, some of us knew that the northern lights were way in the north, like maybe Finland or the northern European countries and even Alaska. Okay, I can get the solar flares up there. But who's to say that scientists can't go and replicate that? Obviously, particles like plasma TV, LCD screen, all these, and then also the whole red shift and blue shift. I learned that. I mean, I kind of learned that in science class a long time ago, but I barely remember everything I learned in school. I remember some stuff. But when I was studying astrophysics the last 7 years, just on my own, trying to understand the temperature difference, and even how you would characterize long wavelengths and short wavelengths, and is there correlation equals causation to even temperature when you look at fire, blue versus red versus orange. And I'm sure all of that's connected on some level. But as far as the wavelengths, okay, well, when this red shifting away from you, okay, that's red shifting, so maybe it doesn't burn as hot, so it's maybe longer wavelengths. And then when it red shifts, or when it blue shifts toward you, which maybe, who says it's shorter wavelengths, I don't know. It's just how the colors correspond to what's going away from what's going towards you. So not everything is correlation with causation as far as temperature and frequency and all that. But I mean, frequency relative to what? Like what context? So then I'm thinking like, well, shit. Now we're having all the particles, and they're being ionized, and HARP and CERN and Wi-Fi and all that stuff, and then you're seeing all these colors that look like Mardi Gras themes and Joker themes, and then you have all the traditions of worshiping Mother and worshiping Father and all this other stuff, and I'm in pain, and so I'm like bitter and rude and whatever else. I'm not so much bitter, but I'm bringing up some truth that it may not be, I don't know, palatable to some. I'm thinking, oh shit, these G5 things, man, that's the start of it all. I dreamt in crazy colors way in the beginning. And so just within the last couple weeks or last couple months, yeah, you remember going into Walmart and feeling the way I felt, and then dealing with the heart palpitations and the arm pain. That's the biggest one. Now, Audrey gets the leg pain, so it's all relative to what it is that is stronger. So I used to play soccer, so when I played soccer, my legs are strong. And I wasn't really building up. I mean, I was playing goalie a lot, but that was more in my older years, when I was in my 30s playing goalie in San Francisco or just an intramural league, with a bunch of chicks. But when I was doing like AYSO, American Youth Soccer Association or organization, and that was like a youth league, back in Silicon Valley, that was all my legs. And I didn't bother to strengthen my arms. Okay. So I'm sure now through this boot camp of sorts, the system is strengthening my arms because my legs feel great. But Audrey has to deal with leg pain. Maybe she's stronger up, she has more upper arm strength, and I have weaker arm strength, so now I have to deal with the system strengthening itself. And so, yeah, it's like a boot camp. And relative to what is weak on your body is what's going to be in pain. And I'm also noticing those who already are in major deficit, who have an issue with air, food, and water, they're going to keep withholding sugar from themselves. They're going to keep withholding milk and meat and eggs and cheese. It's what's going on right now is reinforcing people's major deficiencies or making them so strong. And if you already been conditioned for strength or for pain, then like Audrey, I noticed, and Tanya, I noticed, you guys are being conditioned for pain and suffering. And as long as you keep eating and releasing those demons the way I have in my book, and you rest when you can, I know you got to do what you got to do to filter that pain through, through behaviors, through what you say. Like I channel, it's right, channel. You have to channel your pain through some way. Sometimes it is through certain activists. Sometimes I don't know how some of you, and you don't need to tell me how some of you channel your pain without treating it, without starving it, without hurting anyone else. But the way I channel all this pain and suffering is not because I'm like traumatized. No, it's the strengthening of the body, releasing the old, bringing on the new. So I channel it through intellectual capability. I channel it through taking care of what I have to take care of and organizing and staying on top of things that I have to stay on top of to keep my life going and be on top of shit and even predict what could happen if A, B, C, D, and E ever happen. And then also pick apart what's going on. And my contribution to humanity is give you all the pain and suffering and you choose to take it on or not, because I'm not hurting anyone. I mean, you're choosing to watch my information. And if it's painful to you, then, you're choosing to do that. People buy pain all the time. I'm giving it to you for free, but you can turn me off as many times as you want. But yeah, this last couple of days, I mean, with the whole Mother's Day stuff and what I was focusing about Mother's Day and the snake eating its tail, and that's the circle of life and a circle of death, Hermeticism or Ouroboros. And then I figured out that how you can characterize families. Yeah, snake eating its tail. People do consume each other. They're in this circle of death or life relative to how you want to look at it. And this is where the worship of the mother, the worship of the children, the worship of the animals, the worship of their friends and family. And through that worship is human sacrifice. And people are sacrificing each other through the medical, through the holistic. They buy pain and they buy treatments. But they actually do is they buy the pain through the treatment, and then it only lasts so long, and then they're in pain again. It doesn't last very long. So they go bankrupt trying to treat themselves when you can't be treated in a dynamic environment, no matter what you do. And so it's kind of interesting. That's how I channel the strengthening process. So my legs feel great. Okay, I remember going through the leg pain when I was a kid. Those were the growing pains. So now my arms are going through a growing pains as Audrey's legs are going through her growing pains. And other people's body parts, whatever is in pain at this point, are going through their growing pains. And it's just something that if you can endure it and you can change your life so you can handle it, so you can survive it, that's going to be optimal. Okay? Nobody is there yet. Nobody is. Anyone that says, I don't feel any pain anymore, Jillian, is like, okay, what are you doing to stop the pain? Because I'll tell you, if it's not your legs, it's not your arms, it'll be something else. And again, if people are using the J juice to cure themselves, well, then you've missed the whole point. But yeah, the pain is the body strengthening itself and releasing the old to bring on the new. And sometimes you got to feel the pain. And it's imperative now, because the more you resist it, resistance is futile. Remember that. The more you resist it, it's like, see you later, bye. And so, you know, my husband, I'm watching West Virginia, Appalachia, and I'm watching some YouTube videos last night before we went to bed. And my husband's from, you know, that part of the country and the South. And I'll tell you, these people are some strong, sturdy people. And the industry of the coal towns and all that are going to the wayside and everything. But the people are some strong people. Luckily, my husband, even though that's his background, farms and coal mining and the southern stuff, he went to a regular school. It wasn't like the coal school in West Virginia. I mean, he's from here, from Ohio, but you know, he was given all the food and the freedom to move around and do what he needs to do to strengthen his body and to his mind and find things to make money off of so he can survive. So he might be aging a little bit. His hair might be going gray and white, but he's still I still look at his face and it hasn't changed too much. Now, I've seen when the climate would change and he's feeling pain, I would see the circles under his eyes because he's dealing with something, but he keeps silent about it. And then I see his body just spring back. So, you know, as long as he doesn't treat any of his disease, for the most part, as long as he is able to shit it out, and maybe one day it'll trigger something up here to release up here and he can open up and deal with that. I don't know. But he's doing okay. So, I mean, that's great to watch. So I just let him do what he does. You know, what can you, he's got to figure out when it's time for him to slow down and chill out so we can recoup resources lost. But you know how men are. They resist stuff. But not so much like, well, not all men. Some men don't resist stuff. Some men do. It just depends on how bad it is. But being conditioned for pain and suffering without somebody inflicting it on you is probably going to be your saving grace. Even though, you know, people have gotten operations and stuff, well, you're going to have to revisit a lot of that stuff. But, I mean, if you're an animal, then you don't really, it's going to be difficult to come back from that. But if you're a human who's been through operations and you know your holes are going to come back, the operations and stuff that you've gotten, the growths are going to come back and you're going to have to release it organically. That's what went on with my dog. She had all those operations before I came around. And they came back. And then it also revisited the past of her then getting operations from them. I mean, that was the thing, was watching the past with her. It was fucking crazy. So that's why the less operations that you'll say yes to, the better off you can be, assuming you can handle going through that process from that point forward of releasing demons and going to the past to bring to the future. And right now, we're visiting a lot of the past. I mean, me watching those West Virginia, Appalachia shows like visiting the past, so that way we can go to the future. Oh, my God. And I'll tell you, man, it's exhausting. It really is. But, again, it's necessary. Because we are in climate change. And so we are in the hermetics, as above, so below. And so let me just go down this timeline. I'll just go through the process. But I said the human race is like living in boot camp right now. And it's hell week. The system is breaking you down to build you back up. Some of you won't get up. And I'm serious. That's going to be so fucking true. Some of you will not get up. They'll break you down, but you will not get up. And that's the grim part of all of this, is that even though the system is breaking human race down to build them back up better, build back better, right? That's exactly Biden's campaign. And that's basically the world. Some of you will not build yourself back up. You will keep breaking yourself down, starving yourself of sugar, meat, milk, cheese, and eggs until there's nothing left. Because people are in so much pain, they can't help it. I understand it. The system right now is reinforcing what you already can or cannot handle. And it's pretty crazy watching that. So no matter what I say to people, and I'm sure some of them watch the videos, and I say you cannot starve yourself of sugar or gluten or meat or milk or cheese or eggs. You cannot really be treating your disease. And then you see them say, well, I got to go on a sugar detox. And the people that say this, I like them. They've been around this for a while, and they're saying I got to go on a sugar detox. And I'm like, oh my God. That's what I'm saying. You can't tell people anything. When they're in that much pain, and suffering, and they think the only way to take away the pain and suffering is to take away food and to treat it with herbs and supplements and everything else, you just got to watch it. So now it's just more those who are somewhere in the middle, who are not that far gone, who have a choice to like take themselves off the grid, literally take themselves off the grid and die in system, or bear through the pain and suffering so that way they can survive. And they may have to cut down their lifestyle. They may have to tell people, I can't do this. I'm done with this. It's not, the money is not important. I can't run away. I got to face and deal and face this, and I can't do anything more for you. And they start cutting people off left and right and ghosting them, because people are, when you're trying to leave and they're like, no, don't leave. Oh my God. Then you got to ghost them because they're holding on too tight and they're drowning you. They're strangling you. And so I had to release someone just yesterday because they were, I've tolerated their anti-Israel campaigns, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm not going to get in the way of that. It's your deal. It's your shtick. Fine. So they don't come on my page and say too much about that. So I don't even worry about it. But when I'm talking about HARP and I'm talking about CERN and all the different, Aurora stuff and the G5, Northern Lights, whatever you want to call it, KP9, KP5, whatever you want to call it. And they're like, oh God, I would suggest you slow down on that because then you're going to give more emphasis to the flat earthers. And I'm like, you know what? Flat earth and this whole thing of enhancing the Northern Lights is completely diametrically opposed. That's why I made that analogy that the Northern Lights is like a boob job right now. The Northern Lights where everybody can see, it's like a boob job. G5, Northern Lights is like a boob job. Yes, boobs exist. Okay, Northern Lights exist. They may happen naturally in really northern parts of the country based upon how the poles are, how they are, and where the earth is, and where the sun is, and all that. Okay, so yes, boobs exist, but scientists figured out how to enhance them, the boobs, and the Northern Lights, and make them look any way you want them to look, and fake boobs might look cute for a minute. So that all the Northern Lights might look cute for a minute, until they start torturing you because immune system activation. Okay? So girls that go get enhancements and plastic surgery and Botox and all that shit and taking all their supplements, herbs and extracts, whatever, fine. It's great for a minute. It might give you whatever you think is the feeling that you're aiming for. It might give you people looking at you and making you sexually appealing. But at some point, the immune system is going to fucking rebel. And when your immune system rebels, all hell breaks loose, literally. And so, yes, the G5 Northern Lights is like a boob job. It exists, but it is enhanced. So it has nothing to do with flat earth. Nothing to fucking do with flat earth. Flat earth is its own thing, and I don't get involved with that. I don't care. But you can take something that's already existing and make it better. But then we're in Hermeticism. What is it? The Rosicrucian? Jewish Gnostics? Or Christian Gnostics? Jewish mystics? The Hermetics, the Greek and the Roman and all the Egyptian, the alchemy. And it's the whole as above, so below. So what's so beautiful out there and so whatever out there is now enhanced to where everyone gets to see it. So then we're, what Klaus Schwab said, we're competing on a level playing field. So when Audrey was seeing all those pink and greens, okay, way in the beginning, when we were noticing this stuff and posting that, I'm like, oh wow, look at Scotland, all the Northern Lights. She's like, yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Well, we just figured out now what's going on. And then Kim was seeing it over there in Cleveland. And I wasn't seeing it here. Now we're able to see it in Canton, Ohio. But before it was like over there, over Canada and over Lake Erie. Where even Kim, who lives up there in Ashtabula, up there in northern Ohio, she was able to see it. But now people in Canton, Ohio can see. People in Florida can see the G5, the Northern Lights. Now it's G3. It means less geomagnetic, less enhanced solar flares, right? Californians can see it. Californians can see it. You don't even have to go to fucking Alaska anymore. It's just everything that you thought you had to go and travel to. The weather, the animals, the insects, the diseases, the Northern Lights, all that shit's coming right to your fucking doorstep. And when that happens, that's when people's immune system go fucking haywire. And that's when the fucking tornadoes go over. I was telling my husband when he got off the toilet, finally, he actually was on the toilet the whole time the freaking hailstorm happened on Saturday. He was like, yeah. And then that tornado hit. It hit, like I said, 32 miles away. It hit just right north of us. He's like, yeah, a tornado just went right over you. Went right over us. Because it got hot and cold that quickly. Like, right now it's like, what, 50 degrees? It was 40 something. The heater kicked on. I'm like, my immune system is almost so confused right now because it's hot and cold that quickly. I can't even figure out what to dress for. Again, when I went out on Saturday, I was dressing for cold weather and rainy weather. And then I go in the car, 68 fucking degrees. I'm like, how the hell is that? When we're coming from a heater in the house, and it's all gloomy and gray and all cold and everything else, and then I'm going in the car, and the sun comes out, it heats up that quickly. So then I go back in the house and redress and I did that yesterday. But today it's going to be 80 degrees, and it was like 46, like the middle of the night, where we had to put the heater on, and I turned it from the heat to the AC. It was 67, 68 degrees in the house. I'm like, that's too fucking hot. I'm putting it down to 66 degrees now. And it's 50 and the temperature can be rising. And that's when things start getting crazy. It's the climate change that's so aggressive. So you're going to get everything that you used to travel for right to your doorstep. And it's happening in California. And so I'm listening to some of these YouTube videos, and they're saying that the pandemic is coming back again. See, COVID-19 is basically a frequency. It's like G5. It is, the climate change. That's what COVID-19, climate change, is bringing up people's issues, causing immune system activation. And when people don't want to feel stuff, they starve themselves, or they're taking remedies because they can't handle pain and suffering. And so through their own hand, through the system changing the climate, people are actually choosing to take themselves down notch by notch by notch by notch by notch. And I'm just sitting here gritting my teeth, burying the pain, because what else am I going to fucking do? End up like those people out there taking remedies and supplements and starving myself so I can just die one day? That's exactly what people are doing. They're remedying themselves to death. But it's through their own hand, through their own permission. They weren't conditioned for pain and suffering. I was. Why is that? Because that's what I was raised with. What do you mean? Were you abused? No. It's the fact that being held accountable for choices made. So even though my mother had to legally treat whatever disease I had, luckily I didn't have too many diseases. It was just using over-the-counter medication. I didn't have too many issues. I didn't have crooked teeth, and I didn't have to get any operations. But it was a psychological stuff where you get a choice. And if you choose this, there are consequences. If you choose that, there are consequences. And being held accountable for those consequences. And when kids are that rebellious and that steadfast, and you have to break their spirit, we're being broken down. You got to break their spirit to build them up to be a certain way. And it's not always beautiful. But that's the thing, is that if you don't break a kid's spirit at the time they need to break it, they won't be able to handle pain and suffering. But it's not for parents to do that, or they'll turn their kid into a serial killer. So that's the thing. There's a technique that already right at the get-go, there was no violence shown on the TVs. I wasn't shown violence. I wasn't shown anything except for Sesame Street and Electric Company and the sitcoms that you see on ABC and all that. Like Who's the Boss and Perfect Strangers, right? And Alf. And so occasionally we'd see stuff like Saturday Night Fever or something. And that was the sex programming, was watching some of the stuff that came on in the 80s shows, but not the horror stuff. But yeah. So there was a specific way to break a kid's spirit without having people claim, oh God, they're and so if people don't break the spirit of themselves so they can finally build themselves up and realize a lot of things, they'll be so rebellious and so resistant and think they know everything, they will destroy themselves. That's what's going on. People are like, oh, I'm infallible. I am invincible. I have God on my side. I have my strength of whatever on my side. And yeah, this system is going to break your fucking ass down. And they are. Grown men are being taken to their fucking knees at some point. Grown men are. Or they're aging so quickly that they can't get ahead of it. Like we have these elderly women who are so far gone that they're going to detox themselves out of existence. It's pretty crazy to watch. And so you can't say anything to people. There's nothing to say. You can't make people feel pain and suffering. You can't. You can't sell that shit. You can only sell death to them. And so somebody said, y'all not going to be loving those northern lights being everywhere so much when you figure out why. Well, everybody can speculate why. But that's then now California. Let me go back to what I originally said about California. They're getting the COVID. And it's going to be, and it's already happening, a resurgence. But now we're going to have all the, when they're seeing the northern lights over there in California. Oh yeah. What is it? The angel of death is passing over them right now, literally. That's why I've already kind of made my peace with everything, with people in California. I mean, I have no issues with people in California, whatever. Sometimes I'll come off like I'm still pissed off, but I'm not really. But I'm just getting over it. I mean, I've been over it, but I've made my peace with a lot of things. Oh, God, I can't deal with this. Right. But I just can't deal with people saying anything about the Northern Lights that's other than what it is. And I know we can speculate, but I'm just done with people turning it into a religious thing. I really am. So I gotta say goodbye to people. I'm literally saying goodbye. Because there is nothing I can say to anyone. So what are my issues? This person said, the northern lights are rays of black sun. God came back during that last solar eclipse, why the MSM wanted everyone in fear. This is a person that doesn't even believe in church. This person doesn't like Christians. I can't deal with this. You know, people are going to have their opinions about this, and just because you've had a history with me doesn't mean that I'm going to be disputing what is what. I know what I feel. And I know, wow, you can't tell someone. But when someone tells you something different based upon your perception of stuff, they're getting in your face. They are disputing, they're discounting what's going on. And I'm not playing anything more with the Ascension people. I'm not. I'm just done with it. I just can't. I don't have this. I don't have the patience. I don't have the strength to keep playing this back and forth. That's fine. If you want to believe in God and whatever, that's great. I'm not saying he does or doesn't exist, but I'm not putting my thoughts on your page. I'm not telling you when you're posting about Ascension and all this other shit. I'm not going like, oh no, it's HAARP, it's turn. I'm not posting anything on anyone else's page. I don't fucking do that. I don't cross boundaries. I may have done that in the past. But the people who keep commenting on my shit, disputing and putting their spin on it, well, I've trained them to do that to me, and now I guess I have to retrain them not to. Sometimes it means cutting them off. But people are out there are still traveling and doing their thing, doing their whatever. Maybe they don't feel pain. Who the fuck knows? I haven't heard from a lot of these people anyways. And so there's come a point where, yeah, it doesn't matter what we've had, what connections we've shared the last 7 years. This is when the rubber meets the road. People will go to their prospective corners and they just stay there. And I'm fine with that. This is not kumbaya. I'm not playing this circle of let's all hold hands and be like, nah. I stay on my page, say what I gotta say. You stay on your page, say what you gotta say. If there is an alignment, then I'll share that with people. And I try, when I do go onto other people's pages, which I have done, I went onto Billy Blatt's page. He's a funny dude. He definitely has his position on certain things in the LGBT whatever and parenthood. But I don't worry about that. But when I see posting stuff and I have to laugh, I find ways to say things where it also honors his position, and you can never tell what I'm talking about because it keeps it pretty diplomatic. I keep things very neutral. I don't push my opinion on somebody else's page. I don't say, well, you should think this. Or play the whole spiritual. No. I like to laugh. But I was like, oh, that's shocking. But they're saying it on their page. I'm not coming on. So I like to share. I like to share in the banter because it is funny to me. But I won't dishonor his belief or his way of expressing. And I don't use, what is it called? Love bombing. Because even when you're all like, oh, it's God and the whole new earth. Blah, 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 blah. Oh God. What do you call it? The oxytocin. I feel the oxytocin dripping from a lot of people. And that was one example of oxytocin. What I just read was an example of somebody dripping with oxytocin. And I'm going to just go back to that. So you understand, because I want you to understand how I identify what oxytocin is. The northern lights are rays of the black sun. God came back during the last solar eclipse. Why the mainstream media wanted everyone in fear. Why does it sound like oxytocin? God came back. So the spiritual community has a lot of similarities to the religious community. Okay? And if I'm coming from a scientific point of view, that's fine. You can have the allegory. I don't get involved with people's allegory. If you come on my page, then I'll get involved and tell you my position. But I don't go on other people's pages and be like, scientists are playing with the weather. Scientists are doing this and this. Scientists are... Because a lot of people who don't really believe in scientists or whatever, they're all about God and ascension and a higher power. Yeah, it's called energy. We don't even know what the fuck we don't even know. Do you realize we don't even know half the shit that goes on out there? We don't know how advanced part of our society could be. There's no way to know anything, really. There's a billion stories out there. But I can't even think that even the eclipse was like something natural. I mean, when you think about all the numbers that are aligned and everything, and then you see all the people with the Illuminati people, or that are exposing Illuminati, like Donut, and he's doing all the numbers of before the eclipse and after the eclipse. It's 133 days before and 133 days after. And then all the people in, Bible people talking about numerology, and it's like numbers before and after and all this other shit. Well, yeah, things are that. Why are they that down to the number, down to this? You got to then think maybe potentially that the world's not what you think. There's a whole lot more than just chalking everything up to God, which is kind of like a catch-all. And that's fine. I don't get in the way of your stories. If you want to have your story on your page, fine. Have the story on your page. But I know how contrived a lot of things are. I know we can take something that's organic and enhance it. Yes, Alana, yes. I've heard, yes. Tornadoes came out of nowhere, yes. They came out of nowhere over here. Because it was so hot and then it was so cold. In maybe 15, 20 minutes, a half a day. Okay? So I'm not playing this game of the whole God thing and playing the old ascension and the new earth shit, okay? I'm not playing the games that some people play, the the Schumann restaurants are so this and so that, because then all the spiritual ascension people that do the kumbaya oxytocin love bombing the crap out of people, then they go off into that world that I'm not even want to be part of. It's the oxytocin that comes out. It's all that shit that right now, those who have been programmed in such a way and were in pain, and yes, use my juice as a way to take away the pain, because you're selling J juice as a painkiller, curing themselves, still in that state of oxytocin, ascension, and God. And this is a person who's against church, okay? Who's against the Christians, when you think about it, and they're using the word God. I'm like, what? This is a person that didn't like someone that was all about the church. And then now she's using the word God? That just, what? So I leave the religion and the allegory. The religion allegory is the story that explains science, and you can pick which side of the freaking world you want to stand on. I don't care. So that's why I stay home and I stay safe. And we have kids that are shooters. We have so much going on. I wouldn't be out there if I don't have to be. I mean, it's... And so no matter what I say about what's going on as far as science versus religion, allegory, and all that stuff, and even about saving your life through food and all that stuff, okay, I just represent. There is no going on someone else's page and telling them what they should think or how they should feel or what they think is going on. If my stuff does not align with yours, then leave it alone. You don't need to put your difference of opinion on my page. I don't care how nice you put it. And so I do have a lot of tolerance for people, but not anymore. Because there's no point. I'm not going in and playing this, your story is not as good as my story. Shit, I could give a fuck about your story. Survive it. That's really what it comes down to. Just survive it. And if you can't survive it, then you'll have a story about it. Well, you won't have a story about it. You'll be dead. So. But I just got to because yeah, smart dust. Yes, there's such a thing as nanodust, which is a term used to describe solid dust particles that are smaller than 100 nanometers. Nanoparticles have different properties than larger dust particles, especially those smaller than 10 nanometers. They can be found in cosmic environments and have been detected in the interplanetary medium using in situ instruments. Okay, nanodust in the solar system. International Space Science Institute. A large fraction of the heavy chemical elements in different cosmic environments is contained in small solid dust particles. Among them, particles with size smaller than about 100 nanometers are loosely referred to as nanoparticles. And they can be used. And so we have these nanoparticles that have all these different elements and components to it, different compositions, composites, and we are in a highly surveillance society with devices and things that can activate things, obviously. I mean, if salt can activate your immune system, you can imagine with salt with other types of heavy metals activating each other. Because you have sodium chloride, sodium mercury, or sodium fluoride, sodium this, sodium that. So sodium activating certain elements. And if there's a lot of them in the air and they're affecting your immune system, you should be able to release the demons and then eat food to strengthen. Okay, so nanoparticles are also used in chemical and mechanical engineering because of their superior thermal characteristics. And sometimes they could be in all the air, food, and water and therapies. I mean, that's what therapies are, is targeting parts of your immune system and commandeering them and cause them to do a plus or minus, activate or deactivate relative to what the intention is. That's what all the therapies market does. Herbs and extracts, whatever. All of them either vasoconstrict or vasodilate your blood vessels or your alimentary canal relative to your intention. And if that's your choice to do that, that's fine. I don't get in the way of whatever people do. That's fine. I will be naturally exposed to people's nanoparticles when they're coughing and sneezing and blowing their nose, and they aerosolize the air with their ectoplasm, and I breathe it in, and my immune system has to go and process that and release the demons. Which is why I don't hang out in too much mixed company, because everything has been activated, influenced to such a degree. And now that we have the G5, G3, G2, whatever, G5 is the highest. Will there be a G6? Well, that will be something that you'll be like, holy shit. No different than, 5G, G5, 5G, ooh, G6, 6G, what the fuck, right? So that's why I just stay away from, and they're saying, yeah, the H5N1, which is what, the bird flu, is killing cats in California. Is it California? And also New Mexico. So we have the avian flu virus, the H5N1. We have the G5, 5G, G6, 6G. Everyone's going off the fucking deep end. Not everyone. A lot of people are going off the deep end. They're suffering. Because they have to be under the influence because they're suffering. Or dying suddenly. Getting diagnosed the same day as they're dying the same day. Oh, yeah. So, no matter what, you can't get away from nanoparticles. I don't care if they said they were in the V's or not. It doesn't matter. They're in the air. And that's what people in the chemtrails world talk about. But, you can't. You have to either adapt to all the nanoparticles that you have absolutely no control over, or you will succumb to them. That's your only choices. Or you try to resist them and succumb to them. And then realize that when it's hot outside, it also can get cold. And yeah, tornadoes can happen just like that. Shit. Again, like I said, the one went right over my head because it hailed so much on that Saturday. It rained so much. And so we left to go shopping. We went to Dairy Queen and we were nitpicking at each other. And we're watching these clouds come through so quickly. And it rained. Saw the wall of rain coming towards us. So that wall of rain then turned in, and that was more warm, right? Because I was hot. That's why I changed from what I thought would be a cold weather gear to then shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops. And then we're sitting in the Dairy Queen, and we see the wall of rain come through, and then the cold front comes right afterwards, right on the piggyback. And then there's hail, and it's freezing outside. And then there goes a tornado going right over there. So pay attention. I'm sure, Alana, that you probably felt the cold right after the heat. So when you think about Florida, they're a sitting duck. They're a heat, and then they bring in a cold front like that. Yeah. That's how they're going to clean up shit. That's how they're going to cause a lot of chaos, because you'll have naturally warm areas like Florida, even like California, but Florida especially, any of those southern states, and you bring in a vast amount of cold front where it causes that hail to happen that quickly. That's what you need to be concerned about, is how quickly the warm air can then be used as a backdrop for the cold to then cause those storms. Okay? And I experienced that personally this Saturday, and I watched it happen within probably 3 hours. 3 fucking hours. That's how quick shits can happen. That's also then the died suddenly and the diagnosable conditions. Yeah, so I brought in Disney Aurora, Briar Rose from Sleeping Beauty, and Maleficent. Malevolent. That's the as above, so below. You have the religion, the allegory giving you the story, and then you have the scientist. Okay, so I'm just going to put it out there. At this point, anyone that wants to dispute my science perspective with your religion and your spirituality, I'm done with that. Or with your politics. There is no disputing anyone. Right now, the system is going to reinforce people's belief systems. And if you haven't figured out how to change your lifestyle, your belief system, anything, the system will reinforce it, what you already have within. And if you're using Jilly Juice to take away your pain and suffering and selling it to your friends as a way to take away their pain and suffering, I already saw that person was selling it like that. Not literally selling it like getting money from it, but selling it as a cure. It was done. It was just a matter of time before they would come on my page and say something against the science part of what I'm talking about. It was only a matter of time. I'm giving people chances. Believe me, I give people chances all the time because I always believe people can change. But now in this environment, when I'm seeing people who are already far gone, detoxing from sugar, people are too far gone on love and light, and they can't stay home and stay safe, and then they're all about, New Earth and Aurora, and all of a sudden, fuck. Yeah. Just stay in your corner. Just stay in your corner. I'm good. Some people know the boundaries, others don't. Then you gotta put boundaries down. Even the love and light people, put their boundaries down. Put those boundaries down. Now is the time because, now is the time. Because, the kids are out there doing stupid shit. The adults who are in denial are doing stupid shit. And then you have some really great journalists out there. I had to post Saya New Yorker. She's a Cleveland 19 correspondent. A local journalist. She wore the colors. I was like, wow. But I have nothing mean to say about her. Not that I would have. Why would I be saying? Because there are journalists out there that were fucking slamming me. Like, literally slamming me. They just couldn't wait to capitalize on just taking me down. But she actually did a neutral interview. And she was one of the first that did the interview. And she kept it as neutral as possible. Though, I mean, the anchors that were sitting in that newsroom had their own stuff to say about it. But she was the first one that kind of gave, a neutral interview. So when I saw those colors, and I'm like, well, I must say synchronicity, the colors, and then that said Cy New Yorker is a nice lady who interviewed me a long time ago. And I'll say her articles and interview was far more neutral than the other journalists. So I have a very healthy respect for this lady. Purple and yellow. And she's Cleveland 19. Okay, and she was representing the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity 1911 Zeta Kappa chapter, and she got an award for that. I guess that's her college. What college is this? I don't even know. But anyways, she belongs to fraternities and sororities and all that stuff. So sorority, but anyway, so she got an award for that, and that's good for her. And she wore the colors, like the Mardi Gras tree. I'm like, oh my gosh, the colors. It kind of tripped me out, just the synchronicity. So I had to mention that. So that's kind of like the universe giving me a sign, right? That everything is connected. And that scientists know how connected things are. Scientists also know how to give off an amazing story. That's why scientists can be also in the religious and the spiritual world, because that's how they reach people who aren't scientifically minded. They're story, allegory, archetype minded, which I understand that's fine. But this whole thing with like mainstream media wants to put you in fear. It's not about putting us in fear. I feel the fucking pain, but I'm not under the influence. I'm not taking jelly juice. I'm not taking pot. And I'm not doing the diets. I'm sitting with the fucking pain. If you're not in pain and you're out there gallivanting, traveling everywhere, I don't know how the fuck you do it. I know you're not healed. What does that mean, Jelly? Guys, none of us are. We're in hell week. We're in boot camp. And especially the Northeast. Okay? Californians are getting their little heat, coming up a little bit here and there, but they're feeling it now. People are dropping like flies over there now. The COVID-19 is resurging over there now. So, I'm way more scientifically minded than I was before. The stories were great. It gave you a jumping off point, just like with this, Eurovision. Now, when I'm watching Eurovision on Netflix, which is a movie with Will Ferrell and that chick, Rachel McAdams, and Pierce Brosnan, and then they had some other singer chick. That was a nice version of Eurovision. It was the entertainment side of it. It was like, oh wow, everyone should be like that. But that's the light side. That's the yay side. Then you have this side of it that Audrey was posting with the Crown the Witch and all this devilish stuff and casting spells, and then you have the pentagram, which I get. I mean, People are like, oh, well, it's not really satanic. But, I mean, there's, again, Hermeticism. As above, so below. You have the above with the aurora, right? And then you have below, you have hell and purgatory and death and destruction and conjuring up demons and all of that. So you have both sides of it. But yeah, what you see on Netflix, Eurovision, and the songs, I love the songs. So that's the lighter side of Eurovision, right? And then I'm looking at what Audrey posted about Crown the Witch. I'm like, shit, that's the dark side of Eurovision. And Rob Anderson also was posting that. Okay, so Eurovision had a self-proclaimed witch performing in a candlelight pentagram with 666 on her forehead. Oh, God. So, I mean, you got to see both sides, but, I mean, you know, it's something that for you to enjoy paradise, you're going to have to see the ugly. You're going to have to experience the ugly. That's kind of the world. But back before I met my husband, 2008, 2007, before the mortgage crisis and all that, everyone was living high in the hog, right? People were spending money. They were getting credit like it was nothing. I got a car for $1. And, well, I mean, that was how I was able to qualify with no job for a loan for some car that, and I never qualified. So, I mean, money was hand over fist. Everyone was living high in the hog. They were feeling great. It was great. And then there was a whole downturn. The drop. The bottom fell out. Whatever. Okay? So there's going to be that where things are going to be great for a minute and then the bottom's going to fall out. Right now, where the bottom is falling out. The bottom is continuing to fall out. And people are dying in the process. Though they're seeing little bouts of beauty here and there, like the Northern Lights, and they're feeling the energy, and they're getting, you know, pleasure in paradise, and they're feeling good because they know the Jeju's maybe giving them something like that. And, but again, in this type of environment, the good times only last so long. The love and light only last so long. And so when you're trying to buy love and light and trying to keep that train going, you'll deplete yourself. So that's why I act the way I act, because sometimes shit's ugly. Sometimes pointing out relationships that we have been conditioned to accept and even cultivate and honor and worship. Sometimes those things are what's going to be the suffering, the major suffering. So then I say what I got to say because I might as well. Might as well, right? And so when someone says whoever's trying to bring you down is already below you, that's the thing, is that nobody can bring anyone down that hasn't given permission for them to be brought down. Unless, like, if I'm going into your house and just abusing you and I don't even knock on the door, I just walked in and was feeling entitled. Well, that's the thing, is why is your door unlocked? Why would you trust strangers out there to just get in your face? So anyone that brings you down, now here's the thing, when you're working with people who bring you down, well, that's where you're going to have to figure out, is it worth working with people who are that at the end of their rope, literally? And that's kind of the situation people are in. It's they're working because they have to, but they don't really have to. They can work at different jobs. They can work for less time, less money. They can put boundaries down. I mean, I don't know, but that's the thing, is no matter what, you invite the bullshit in your world. Because that's why I scaled down everything. I'm not trying to invite drama and all that and trying to chase after pleasure in paradise. So there's enough bullshit I got to deal with as far as the frequencies and the climate change and dodging tornadoes and dodging things, okay, that I don't need to bring in somebody's bullshit. And even on my Facebook. So this is a time where, you are the one that's going to raise yourself up or bring yourself down. And sometimes you have to do both. And it's okay. It's okay. And that's the thing. It's okay to express yourself. But when it's dangerous to express yourself on Facebook or anywhere else, then yeah, you live in a dangerous society. That's why I say that the more I say stuff that's so completely opposite of most people, the more I'm scared of the people in my community. The more I'm scared of people on Facebook. The more I say stuff, because I know how intolerant people are. And when people are intolerant and they don't know you, or they think they know you, and then they think that they have, since you said something that they didn't like, and even though they allowed that in, they keep following you and they keep reading your stuff, they think they have the right to go and change your mind, convert you, attack you, say that you're this and that, cross boundaries. And so that's how you know you're in a dangerous society. So I will say more. So the freedom, as things have flipped. Before, you don't say anything and you have a lot of friends and family. You say only what your friends and family would approve of. Now you can't afford to say the things that your friends and family would approve of. And so then when you finally want to save yourself, you have to say things that are basically the opposite. So then your world out there gets smaller, but that's okay. But now you have the freedom to release the demons. You have the freedom to say what you have to say and even have a commentary on society. But then you should be more afraid of your community. Absolutely. Because now with this environment, people's intolerances and triggers are at the surface. So the more you free yourself, the more dangerous you're in, the more danger you're in, the better off you just stay on your own. And that's the freedom. To release the demons, say what you got to say without confronting people, without getting in people's faces, without being in their face. That's why I don't go out there and protest. I don't do marches. That was the 1960s. Now you do marches. Somebody's going to go and start something, and then you get caught somewhere unaware, and then, oh my God, all hell breaks loose again. And so sometimes with that said, then you have to ghost people. So it's okay to ghost people, I guess, because at this point, if you try to leave and say that you're leaving, right, people attack you for that. But see, on Facebook, people love to say they're leaving. Oh, I'm getting out of this group because y'all are stupid. We're like, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just ghost us? Why do you got to tell us that you're leaving? But that's the thing. In real life, people have to ghost you. Especially if they think that you're holding on too tight or if you're dangerous. Okay? And so ghosting is it's a way to preserve oneself from having to confront a situation that probably could end up being very deadly. So if people ghost you, there's a reason behind it. People ghost you. And so you know, I don't want to hold on too tight to anyone or anything. You know, so I'm glad that I released a lot of demons the last 7 years, because I know I was holding on to my husband very tightly. And some things he would trigger me on stuff that I don't even know where the hell it come from. And it was pretty bad as my sickness was becoming even more intolerant to me myself. And so, yeah, me working on myself made everything in my relationship so much better. So he's allowed to be who he is. I'm allowed to be who I am. I'm allowed to put boundaries down. He's allowed to have the freedom. Because he's a man. Men get a lot of allowances. Men are rich most men are rich in our society. Not so much like money-wise, but they have the abilities that some women cannot keep up with. And they'll die keeping up with their man. And so I don't put any boundaries on him. If he won't go out there and step out on me like that. He won't, because he's too moralist. He has morals when it comes to that. But I don't hold him back from the fishing. I mean, no, I don't go out too much anyways. I know he wants me to go out, and leave the house, but I know how bad it is out there. But before, when we were kids, we used to go out every weekend. We'd go to fairs, we'd go hiking, we'd go do a bunch of stuff all the time, and go shopping and go to different cities and go out to eat all the time and go do this and do that and be so out there. And I expected that from him, to go to different towns and do everything I did when I was a kid. And, he wasn't built like that, and he wants to go fish and do what he does, and that's great. And so as my world changed, his world became more open with no major expectations. And it's made things nice. And then when we do go out, we enjoy it because it's not something that we've exhausted. And then I enjoy hanging out with him. But what I do on my own when I'm at home is expand my brain and strengthen my body and deal with the pain and suffering of strengthening whatever is weak, because this environment is doing that. That's what pain is. I need to feed it, pull out the crap, eat food, like I said, and rest, and look for indicators of crazy ass weather. And if there was a tornado that came through, if that tornado did touch down, I wouldn't have been on the toilet during that whole time. I was downstairs going like, oh my God, look at this hail. But sometimes things happen that quick, but now we know how fast shit can happen. So now Alana knows how fast shit can happen. Now I know how fast stuff can happen. It's not like, oh, we're going to have a storm. No, when you look at the clouds and you see the clouds gathering and it looks crazy over there off in the distance and you know how fast stuff can happen, that's when you need to really pay attention and be aware that you got to get down in that basement, because that Pennsylvania church was taken out like that this weekend on Sunday. People were in the basement, but it came out of nowhere. So, yeah, now you really have to be on your toes. You're in hell week. Okay? Yeah. So Mother's Day. Mother's Day, Mother's Day, Mother's Day. This is interesting. I never saw this movie. But in this biographical film, glamorous yet lonely star Joan Crawford, Faye Dunaway, takes in 2 orphans, and at first their unconventional family seems happy. 2 orphans, my sister and I. But after Joan's attempts at romantic fulfillment go sour and she is fired from her contract with MGM Studios, her callous and abusive behavior towards her daughter, Christina, becomes even more pronounced. Christina leaves home and takes her first acting role, only to find her mother's presence still overshadowing her. Well, happy Mother's Day. If you can get away from your mom emotionally and even physically, you might find freedom. All right? Now, how do I look at my mother today? She raised me. She made me really look at everything and figure out what I was rebelling against and why, and even evolve that whole situation. And we're not physically in contact. I don't call her anymore. Everything is cut off. And it's great. So I don't have that. She's not overshadowing me. I figured out how to deal with pain and suffering and emotional whatever. I know how to release my own demons. I'm not turning to alcohol or drugs or remedies or surgeries or anything like that. I'm not turning to sex. And so I've evolved whatever it is I was raised with. But she gave me that platform of so much diversity in my childhood and even as I grew up, that I then drew from those experiences and figured out how to survive what was going on. And sometimes even pull some of her words out and for situations that are appropriate. And so now, I have the freedom to evolve and to develop and to change. And so she did her job, whatever it was. She did her job. Now it's your turn. Give her a chance to save herself. If she can't save herself, take care of yourself, kids. Be the one to survive her. Don't end up like her. Because some mothers are going over the cliff. Some kids will either go over the cliff with their mother, or they might be able to redirect and get out of that circle of death or circle of life, right? So don't make your kids take care of you, right? It doesn't have to be the circle of death or even the circle of life. Break the circle. Survive the old world. And so a picture of, it's Mother's Day, worship me. And so, yeah. If you're afraid to speak out with your family and friends of anything that might be opposite of what they believe, well, you wouldn't be family and friends with them, really. If you're connected to your family and friends, it's because you all have the same belief system. No one will be an evolution. And any evolution that does come into your world, you'll freeze out or you'll attack. That's the thing when it comes to breaking into a group of family or friends. It's either you assimilate and become another clone of them, or you become the evolution and you become attacked. So you can't evolve with homogenized people. They have to evolve themselves. And so then it's better to be on your own. So if you're going to speak out on your own. But you cannot speak in a homogenized group that's anything different. And that was a hard lesson that I learned. That no one cares about your accomplishments. No one cares about your hopes and dreams. They care about is you keeping that group going. Whatever that group is. Yeah. So, some people call me rude. I'm just releasing demons and repelling them at the same time. right? And so pain changes people. Some people become rude. Some people become silent. Some people become rude. Some people become silent. Yeah, death. Or they're just speaking the truth. The fucking god-awful truth. Oh, and I've been speaking some god-awful truths the last 7 years, last 3 years. And so survival or death, silence. Rudeness repels death and silence. And what's rude to someone could be like someone else's truth. So it's, it doesn't matter what people think if you're rude or stupid or uncouth or whatever. In this world right now, the way people are channeling their pain and suffering and anger and trauma, some people are out there having a bunch of sex. Some people are out there doing drugs and alcohol. Some people are out there getting things carved out of them. Some people are out there taking their supplements and detoxes and whatever. Some people are out there getting their surgeries. Some people are out there hurting people, abusing them, shooting them, whatever. And I'm here just speaking what I got to speak. My observation about society, because that's what I was trained to do, is right. Because that's what she told me a long time ago. When you have an issue, write it out. She told me that a long time ago when I was a kid. Don't tell me, Jillian, whatever. You write out your issue. So I would say, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, when I was really mad about something. And she was like, okay, if you write it out, I'm fine with it. But if you say it to me, I'm not fine with it. I'm like, okay. So that's how she trained me to write out my feelings. So now you look at Facebook. You're not allowed to go and hurt somebody. You're not allowed to go and stalk somebody or whatever. But you are allowed to write out your feelings. You are allowed to express your feelings. So as long as it's not something that incites violence or anything else. So that's what I learned, and that's what I was taught, is to write out my feelings. Write out everything. Oh, look what I'm fucking doing. And I'm also speaking it too. Okay? And so that's why it's good to learn how to write and learn how to speak so you can express yourself, so you can channel the pain and suffering and the innovation and the anger and all that, not through hitting somebody or hurting yourself or cutting yourself. People who do that, they use sexuality to express themselves, or they cut themselves because they feel nothing. I knew a girl a long time ago, I won't say her name because she's probably still alive and I have mutual friends. But back then in 8th grade, she was cutting herself. She had, when I was in 8th grade, she was cutting herself, and I saw that she was cutting herself. And I'm like, ew, that's so weird. So I told my mother this. My mother's like, oh my gosh. So my mother is a mandatory reporter, right? Because she's in CPS and stuff. And so, yeah, she reported it, and the girl, I guess, they were like, what the hell? And then the girl's like, somebody reported that I cut myself. And I'm like, oh, shit. But that's the thing. We have cutters out there. People who feel nothing, that want to feel something. And they're channeling their pain and suffering through cutting themselves. That's how freaking crazy it is. And so if you can find a way to channel your pain and suffering and all of your angst and trauma and everything else, not through self-harm, through alcohol and drugs and cutting yourself, but through writing. And without attacking anyone, without looking for an enemy. That's the issue with also cutters, is they look for the enemy. Anyone that looks like someone that is harming someone or something, and they have so much trauma and angst in their background. And then you happen to come through their sites, and then you become the enemy to them. So they just transferred all their angst and trauma and whatever was done to them as they are harming themselves, and then you become the target. And they will hate you no matter what. They will hate you forever. They'll never forgive you for anything, and you didn't do shit to them. But they didn't like how you did something. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, whatever. They don't want to even understand why you do what you did. Whatever it was. Because we have people who are channeling their trauma and their pain through not only self-harm, but also to attacking others. And then also attacking the government. Attacking themselves, attacking their children, attacking everything. But through love and light and you see also just trying to wake people up. But people aren't really trying to wake people up. They're trying to just channel their pain and suffering through articles, through awareness. And so now look at your Facebook. Because people can't wake other people up. They can't. They're just channeling their pain and suffering through what they were reinforcing, what they were taught, what they fell into. Whether it was Christianity, Judaism, all the different holistic, allopathic, conspiracy world, anti-New World Order, anti-this, pro-that. And so the system gave everybody a medium and a subject matter and a politics, religion, science thing to channel their issues through. And so you see how much pain people are in. Just look at your Facebook. But some are not harming themselves or anyone else. Others have to be regulated through the government. And then they tell you, if you have pain and suffering, please see a doctor. And if there are FDA-approved protocols out there, then use those, and you can cure yourself of death. And so, I know I have no power over anyone else. Some people are like me somewhere, and they're not too far gone, and they have an optimal situation where they can deal with the pain and suffering. And they have the allowance to crawl away into their hole and sleep without somebody waking them up and telling them, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. But it took me at least 3 years for my husband to understand. Now he sees it. So he sort of understands. It's still difficult for him, but he gets it. Because I'm not as sick as I was a couple years ago, where I could barely move, where I was just leaking out so much mucus and having massive headaches, throbbing headaches, or major rashes. I haven't had a major rash in probably about a couple months. But a year ago, and he'd come home and I'd just be like, a rash here, itching here. My whole back was all full of hives and all that. Now it's starting to release the demons. And now it's like the arm pain, because my arms are strengthening. My legs are already strong. Now it's my arms' turn. So it's brutal. So people are channeling their pain and suffering through whatever. Just watch out. They're channeling through their religion, their spirituality, their politics, their science. Some people are harming themselves. They're trying to harm other people. The system has to watch all of you. That's why we're in 1984. That's why we're in a surveillance society. Because once the climate changed, they have to watch who's going to be doing what. And so people buy pain and suffering, tattoos, operations, and piercings, or they are cutters and they cut themselves for free. But they pay in the long run. You can read my information for free if you think I am horrible, causing you pain and suffering. Okay? And so if people want to feel pain, they'll read my information, and then they hate me for it. You can't sell pain to people, right? They have to choose to want to deal with it and face it. So if you hate me, it's because you chose to hate me and read my information, and then you blame me for what you've chosen to do. Kind of like what you do with the government. Believe me, if I was in your shoes, I would hate me too, because I was there too. I was hating anyone who thought differently, or would love them to death and kill them with kindness. And I couldn't wait to gossip about them, and I couldn't wait to bully them or be viciously intellectual. Oh yeah, I played all of those games. All of us have in some way or another. Okay, because that's how we survive being taken over by somebody else, or be viciously intellectual, and then psychologically slam them. Oh yeah, it takes one to know one. That's why I stay into myself, because a lot of people are what I used to be, and some of them are very dangerous. When you know yourself, you'll know the world, and you'll protect yourself, because the world trained you to be exactly the way you are. Okay? And so, so I said yesterday, growing an organic garden is like developing children in your own image. Something to eat, something to consume. So that was the whole hermeticism of the snake eating its tail, the Ouroboros. That's the family. The family is the Ouroboros. Something to eat, something to consume. Right now, people hate buying food from the government, so they grow their own. When they can't feed themselves, they grow their own food, and they call it healing. Don't hate me. I'm on a roll right now. Only I will never be loved like George Carlin. That's probably a good thing. But you must see the synchronicity of it all. It was planned that way. Okay, so I'm kind of glad that all of us are kind of clones to each other. So you don't really take me personally, because I'm not taking you personally. You're part of one of many people who are just like you. Okay? And so you can gather together and say something's wrong with Jillian, but no, you can diagnose me, and I don't blame you, because I'm speaking against the mainstream and even the alternative mainstream. And so So that's why I posted those pictures of like a little old lady growing a cabbage patch of little faces. Cabbage Patch Kids. All right, so the sun's poles are about to flip. Oh, yeah. And so I said yesterday, happy snake eating its tail day. If you say people don't abandon their friends, they abandon the people they use, let me give you another side. They left your ass because you used them, and they needed to get out, and you guilt tripping people to stay with you is why they left your ass to begin with. Okay, so this is with the family. How many people are guilted into destruction? How many daughters and sons guilt their mothers into a relationship, and how many mothers guilt their children into staying? That is the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. When you have no freedom to save yourself because of the guilt trips from everyone who need your body, mind, and spirit, people become the human sacrifice with their own blessing. That is the slavery system. Okay? I see the bitterness in people who think they should have been raised by someone else. And they will never get over that. And they will pass that trauma on to their offspring and be everything their parents weren't. So those kids are done. They're cooked. The parents are forced to consume their children. We are living in the allegory, and people can deny it, but the fact that we are worshiping kids and parents says it all without even saying it. That's the religion of family. That's the Ouroboros. That's Hermeticism. The very notion of family is no boundaries and entitlement and guilt. Okay, and I know I'll be hated for this information because of how much people worship their family. That's their religion. Their parents died for them. The parents are dying for their children. People who worship someone who died for them won't ever change. So parents are dying for their children. What does that mean? They can't wait to have them, or they're literally dying for their children. I have no power over... Oh yeah, that's why religion is what it is. It's a built-in self-destruct. And that includes Judaism, Christianity, Hindu, Buddhism. That's every religion, every ascension, every flippin' religion, spirituality. Spirituality is about cultivating death and justifying it. It's a built-in self-destruct. I have no power over your religion, especially when you worship people who are dying for you or who have died for you. So then you take it to then Christianity. They said that Jesus was the Messiah. He died for your sins. People are going to die for each other. Then we have Judaism said that no, Jesus was not the Messiah. We're still waiting for them, but in the meantime, we'll all be messiahs to each other. So they'll die for each other. Right? So if you released yourself from your family, you're halfway there. Okay? If you have a lot of friends, you just walk back into the same situation. Then religion and politics and science steps in and tries to be your parents. And then you worship somebody or else die for somebody else until you live for yourself. That's the depopulation agenda. It permeates everything. And so that's why I said stop eating your own. And then I also saw the correlation of the colors of the purple and green in Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz, and the Emerald City, the purple pony and the green Emerald City, you know, the wizard who's really a man behind the screen. I mean, that's the thing with those that are the spiritual people and the political people who are like, oh, don't give too much to all this conspiracy shit. You're taking it to the extreme. 1930s. They said the Carrington effect, that's what Audrey posted about the Carrington effect, that there was some kind of G5 light show way back when. It wasn't as deadly as it is. But then, you know, some certain things went offline because of this, and that. But then when the system figured out how to harness energy, you had Tesla, right? We know about Tesla harnessing electricity. And who's to say when they were at the beginning, well, you can probably look at the patents of when climate was engineered. And so then you have some like MGM Studios putting out Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and you have Return to Oz, and you know that's back in the 1930s. And yeah, I think we have room to be a little bit more cognizant of how much man can control the environment, the people, and the universe. And so tornadoes, the Emerald City, look at the color scheme. So I'm done with people just disputing because it doesn't fit their own perfect narrative or their own anti-Israel campaigns or their anti Who the fuck knows? Pro-spirituality. Love, love, love everything. Right? Gallivanting. So the whole thing with the red shift, blue shift causing purple. Yes, yes. Mixing red and blue creates purple. Okay? And so that's why we have then the northern lights. Because we have the red shift and the blue shift of particles. It's like when you look at, when astronomers look through the telescope and they see red and they see blue. And so when it's blue, it's coming towards them. When they see red, it's going away from them. So you imagine within things that are like chaotic, going away from you and towards you, and it's all mixed together. And now you get this beautiful northern lights. You get purple, then you get green, and you get other colors. Everything is connected. The Ouroboros is the snake eating its tail, or parent-child relationship consuming each other until all-out annihilation. And that's why I said Mother's Day is a representation of the Ouroboros. Mother's Day is Rosicrucian. Okay? So, yeah, we're not only in climate change, but we're in boot camp. And you're being broken down, be built back better. And everything is synchronistic. Biden is synchronistic. The thing that's going on with Trump is synchronistic. What's going on with people dying is synchronistic. People dying suddenly. People getting diagnosed with conditions the same day they die. And so this is the time to now figure out if you can handle the pain and suffering and the food. And you'll need meat. You'll need milk. You'll need cheese. You'll need to know how to pull out the crap when you need to. You'll need to drink water. You'll need a lot. You'll need to rest. You need to sit and face something, or move to a place where it's relatively safer, or figure out a game plan. Because the writing's on the wall. It's here. Everything, it's here. You're in it. And so if you can afford to move, but shit's going to only get more expensive. Moving's going to get more expensive. Everything's going to get more expensive. And so with the way the environment is ramping up so aggressively, it's going to cause people to stay in one place, be cured, or just ride it out and hope they survive wherever they are. So, all right, that's all I'm going to say. But my arms, they're sore. They're sore. They're not like so sore where it's like, but they are sore. I feel it. Okay, but I feel strong. I feel great. I have food. I have water. I have rest. I have darkness. Because it was bright. When I went out there to go meet my husband, when he came back from fishing, I look at, and the sun's to the left. So it rises in the east, sets in the west. Yeah, to west. And I'm like, oh my God. It was so bright. It was so freaking bright. It was like being a vampire, and you're like, dude. All right, so you don't have to put up with bullshit out there, guys. If you need to cut people off, cut them off. If you need to block people, block people. But this is the time where the rubber's going to meet the road. Those who have an intention to take you over, they will not let up until you put down boundaries. And sometimes blocking people is the only way to put down boundaries, even your own family, if they cannot respect you. But you have to tell them the rules. Stay on your own fucking page. Don't be pushing your bullshit on my page. Stay over there. Because at this point, yeah, we are in a war. Only the strong are going to survive. We are in boot camp. Build back better. I hope you can build yourself back better. Bye.